Hey everybody, Jason Levine with the Dice Tower here, and I'm with Richard Garfield, and we've had some big news that got announced today with Keyforge. So this is your new game. Tell me a little bit about it and the concept behind it.
Well, sure. Keyforge is a card game, and it's a unique deck game. So what that means is that every deck is unique. So it has its own card name and its own contents. So I have here one that I opened. This one is named Wagner of Midpoint Utopia. So that name is unique. It'll never appear on any of it. It appears on the back of every one of these cards so that it'll never get mixed with any of my other decks or my friends' decks. And it's got its own unique cards. And so when I play it, I have to, as a player, figure out what the strengths and weaknesses are of this deck and how best to use those to defeat my opponent.
So how did you come up with this concept of unique decks and that each thing would be its own unique feel to it?
Well, back in the day when I was first working on trading card games, we gave out to people many fewer cards than they ended up purchasing in real life. And so the world of very constructed decks in trading card games became dominant in the way cards they're played. That and to some extent drafts. But I missed the days where people played sealed deck and played in leagues where everybody had their own unique set of tools, and that those tools weren't necessarily the most powerful in the game, but they used what they could. And there's a lot of people who don't really understand the appeal of that because they want the really highly tuned world of the constructed deck. But to me, it's like is a knife fight more or less interesting than a gunfight? I know that I'd rather be holding a gun, but if I had to be, well, no, I guess. So I think this metaphor is spinning out of control. But my point is, though, that lower power doesn't mean lower skill or strategically lower, and so by making it so that the card backs were unique and the deck therefore was unique, it made it so that everybody has this asset which is completely their own.
So which part of it is unique? The fronts, the backs, all of it? Tell me about what's unique in it, this whole unique system, which I'm still trying to grasp all the concept here. So give me an idea. We're opening up another pack here. As you can see, Richard's about to open it up.
Yeah, for all the practice I've had opening decks, I'm terrible at it. There we go.
So we're going to see exactly what's unique in this right now, so you guys will learn more about Keyforge, because I love this concept. I used to buy decks of some of your other games that you made, and I would just pull out cards and be like, okay, let's start playing. And so it's very interesting to see this.
So in this deck again has its own unique name, but the contents on the front are also somewhat unique. Nobody's got this combination of cards, but many decks have Way of the Bear. Mm-hmm. Okay, so the deck list is on the back, and there's an access code here where you can get it verified online that this is what the deck is, and ultimately be able to play it online. And it's got a list here of the cards that appear in the deck, so you can at a glance sort of see what its strengths and weaknesses are once you understand the deck. Now, there's also a shape here indicating how rare the cards are. So if it's got a circle, it's a common card, which, as is usual with my designs, doesn't mean it's weaker. And diamond means it's uncommon, and star means it's rare. Now, that's not the whole picture. Some cards, for instance, will have there'll be several flavors which they can appear in. And so you might have, I don't think this is in this set, but it's a good example. You might have the axe of the giant, and I've got the axe of the troll, and they're different depending on which one of those are. So that card itself has a dynamically generated thing. But most of them are one Niffle Ape is just like another Niffle Ape. Now there are different combinations which come up, and the algorithm is smart enough to sort of put cards that combo together. So for example, the Niffle Queen I notice here, that is the Queen Ape. and when she's in the deck, you automatically get some Niffle-Apes.
Ah.
And so there's also there's the Riders of the Apocalypse. When you open it up and you find the Rider of War, you know in that deck you're also going to find Pestilence and Famine and
death
and death. Yeah. There we go. So they're yeah.
So when this is made, is it basically it randomly sorts these, and there's a way that it randomly sorts and prints and gives you your own title of your deck as it goes?
Yes. And so when it generates it also, unlike most trading card games, this isn't a trading card game, so unlike I should say, I think all trading card games, there's no real limitation to the rarity. You could end up with all common cards, you could end up with all rare cards. You can also get, unlike most trading card games, you can get lots of repeats. So for instance, this has 2 charrettes, and it has 2 Niffle-Apes. Sometimes you can get 3 ofs or 4 ofs, and when you see this sort of thing, you understand immediately it's some of the character of your deck, how it's going to play out.
And actual cards, because I know these backs are completely unique because of the names and everything, but the actual cards, how many different kinds of cards, like your Niffle-Apes and these, how many cards are there in total? Is there a lot? I mean,
there are a lot. There's, I believe, the first set has something like 350 different types of cards. Some of them, there's different flavors of them, so that might count as several. But yeah, each of the houses has about 50 of them.
So there's 7 houses. Explain this. In the presentation they said there's 7 houses, but each of these decks is going to have 3 of them. So explain how this all works.
Okay. Well, this one, at a glance, you can always tell in the back what the houses are. This is Dis, which is the demon color, and it'll be characterized by having a lot of interference with your opponent. It might make your opponent discard. It might limit how they play in some way. This one is Sanctum. So this one has the creatures with a lot of armor, very protective, healing powers. And this one is Untamed, I believe. Yeah, Untamed, because I have the Niffle-Apes. And so this Untamed has a lot of beasts, and it tends to be really good at sort of skirmishing, fighting. So it's not as, if you want to flat out fight, Sanctum's going to be better, but sort of with more combat tricks here. And it also is usually very good at generating amber, which is the way you win the game. You make amber and you forge keys. So because the decks are because you don't construct your deck, we don't have to have anything like mana cost. The way it works instead is this is going to confuse a lot of people who play trading card games as to how to evaluate things. But what you do is you draw a hand, and the hands are 6 cards, and on your turn you can play as many cards of one house as you like. So I didn't shuffle very well, but this could certainly happen. In this turn I could play 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 discards, right? If I chose to play Sanctum, this is the only thing I could play, and if I wanted to play Untamed, well, there's nothing. Now, why would I want to play Untamed? Well, I can't use the Untamed I played on previous turns unless I choose to play it. So sometimes you'll find yourself in a position where you want to activate a house which you don't have any or don't have many cards to. And so what this does, and then you fill your hand up to 6. What this does is it makes a lot of the traditional things which people analyze in trading card games not work quite how they expect. For instance, card advantage in the game is really hard to put your finger on, because if I'm putting down, if you're killing every creature I play, that's going to feel bad to me because it feels like I'm getting lots of card disadvantage. Mm-hmm. But if you're doing that and not playing any new cards, I'm filling up. It's like I'm drawing cards every turn. And so in some ways, you're not getting the advantage necessarily that it seems you would in another trading card game.
It's a very, very interesting concept, having this with like 3 different powers, and you have to decide which one you use each turn, and mixing them and matching them. I'm still baffled by this whole mixing and matching thing. Like, how were you able to even print this way? Like, this is beyond what has ever come out before.
It's very ambitious, and Fantasy Flight, I knew that they'd be one of the few people who could actually manage to do it, and they were beginning to think about, along uniquely printed components in games, and so they were really delighted to have this concept of a complete game, where that was the whole, what the entire reason for the game was. But yeah, it's so one of the other characters of this that distinguishes it from a trading card game is you have to make it so that, because you only have this one deck, you have to make it so that there's a lot of different ways you can play it. Sometimes with a trading card game, you can feel like the deck is playing you. Like the way it's put together, you really have to play in a particular way. That's not necessarily a bad thing, because if you get tired of playing that deck, you make a new one or you construct one. This game you can play it. There were a lot of people in the audience who asked questions about sideboarding or modifying the decks. There is no modification of the deck. You can't customize this, but the way it plays, you can sort of sideboard on the fly. And so the way that works is since you fill your hand out every time, you can realize that there's a particular key card you need to sprint to. And if you run out of your deck, you reshuffle and go again. So you might even have to sprint through your whole deck and go back. And you can, just be discarding cards every turn, just in order to go through your deck very, very fast to get that. And other times that won't be so important. So you'll be playing the deck more cautiously and taking advantage of the cards that in other games you'd be discarding.
So,
sorry, Jason, I'm almost out of memory. Can you wrap it up in just like a minute or two?
Yes.
Okay.
We'll make a cut there.
Yep.
So, very quickly, tell me about the winning conditions of a game.
So, in Keyforge, the goal of the game is to make 3 keys for your opponent. You do that by collecting amber. So when you've got at the start of your turn 6 amber, you can forge a key. If you have 12 amber, you still can only forge 1 key on a turn. Now, there's of course there's cards which change that. Untamed, for example, has something which allows you to forge a key in the middle of the turn, which can be very deadly. But that's the general rules.
Well, I'm looking forward to playing this. I've got 2 decks that I'm about to open up. I'm very excited about this, and I know we're going to get to play it tonight with Brian. He said he has the base kit for us to start playing with. This is exciting. I mean, you basically are the inventor of trading card games, and to come up with this new concept, I'm very excited to try it and see where this goes.
Looking forward to it as well.
Thank you so much. Again, Richard Garfield, legendary designer, and I'm Jason Levine for the Dice Tower, and thank you for watching another interview from here at Gen Con.